Rome, 1960. A young man, just 18 years old, steps into the ring with a look of fear and arrogance. Minutes later, the entire world would witness the birth of a legend. The gold medal would change not only his life, but the very fate of boxing. Summer in Rome, the Olympic Games brought together athletes from every corner of the planet, but no one could have predicted that, amidst so many competitors, a lean, fast, and energetic boy would emerge who would forever change the way the sport would be remembered. His name hadn't yet echoed like that of a champion, but his presence already commanded attention. Explosive charisma, a defiant smile, and a confidence bordering on arrogance. To many, he was just a teenager trying to prove himself. To others, there was something different about him, a flame that burned with unusual intensity. When he entered the ring for his first fight, the audience was intrigued. His movements were light, almost dance-like, contrasting with the usual rigidity of boxers of the time. He didn't just punch, he provoked, looked his opponent in the eye, spoke, smiled. It was as if he were transforming boxing into a spectacle. Few understood, but everyone felt, this boy carried something that went beyond technique, beyond discipline, beyond sport. And as he progressed through the tournament stages, eliminating rivals one by one, doubt began to turn into anticipation. Was he just a passing promise, or were we facing a phenomenon that would break all barriers? The answer would come the day he won the Olympic gold medal, a triumph that not only established his name but also inaugurated his public identity. Defiant, unforgettable. This is the starting point of our story. The Olympic gold that gave birth to a star. The young man who, in Rome, stopped being just Cassius Clay and began to become Muhammad Ali. The gymnasium in Rome was packed. Flags waved, cameras captured every detail, and the eyes of the world were fixed on an American boy who, at just 18, seemed to carry the audacity of a veteran on his shoulders. His opponent was more experienced, more robust, and many were betting against him. But what no one imagined was that Cassius Clay had already developed a secret weapon. His mind. "You can't catch me," he whispered to his rival, moving around the ring with almost unbelievable speed. His style wasn't just physical, it was psychological. He didn't just strike, he also undermined the confidence of those who dared face him. Every dodge was an insult, every smile an invisible punch. The audience began to react, between applause and boos. Some saw in him a rare genius, others just an insolent kid. But that night, insolence and genius were one and the same. Clay controlled the pace, dictated the game, and turned every round into a spectacle. In the end, when he raised his arms and heard his name announced as Olympic champion, it wasn't just a medal shining on his chest. It was the certainty that the world had just met someone who would never be forgotten. And as the cameras flashed, his smile made it clear, Cassius Clay had arrived to change everything. And if the gold medal already seemed like the pinnacle, it was just the beginning of a rise that would lead this young man to challenge the impossible. Just days after winning the gold medal, Cassius Clay was no longer just an American athlete. He was making headlines. His photo was splashed across newspapers around the world, his name echoed on radio stations, and his personality was beginning to divide opinions. Some saw the arrogance of youth, others saw a brilliance that only true champions possess. But for Clay, that was just the first step. "I won a medal, but I'm not stopping here. I was born to be the greatest," he said in an interview, with a smile so confident it bordered on provocation. Rome had changed his life, but also his mind. He realized that Olympic gold wasn't just a trophy, it was a ticket to the world. While other athletes returned home in silence, Clay paraded through the streets, showing his medal to strangers, and saying without hesitation, "I'm the king of the ring. No one can beat me." His charisma was natural, but his bold manner was shocking. Conservative America wasn't yet ready for an 18-year-old black man to speak so boldly, defy conventions, and laugh in front of the cameras. Behind the scenes, friends recall that Clay couldn't keep quiet. He would provoke, joke, and speak loudly. A teammate confided, Cassius was different. While everyone was tense before fights, he would sing, dance, and say he already knew the outcome. No one believed him, until he stepped into the ring. The arrogance was real, but it hid something deeper, the fear of returning to anonymity, the dread that everything would be forgotten within days. That's why he spoke loudly, because he needed to be heard. The gold medal in Rome opened doors, but it also brought responsibilities. Upon returning to Louisville, his hometown, Clay was welcomed as a hero, but also as a target. Racism still marked every corner, every restaurant, every hotel. The medal didn't erase the color of his skin. In silence, Clay swallowed insults, but in public, he smiled, posed for photos, and said, "I'm going to be world champion." A flame of rage and hope burned within him, and it was this combination that fueled his thirst for greatness. It was during this period that his public identity began to emerge. He didn't want to be just another boxer. He wanted to be remembered as the greatest of all time, and to that end, he built a persona: provocative, loudmouthed, irreverent. It was Cassius Clay against the world. To some, a cheeky kid. To others, a genius who knew how to turn boxing into a spectacle. And so, the Olympic medal wasn't just a sporting victory. It was the birth of a legend. The beginning of the metamorphosis of a young man who, before long, would be about to face the professional world. But before he could make it to the professional ring, Cassius Clay would need to prove that his voice was as strong as his fists, and the world would soon see that he wasn't messing around. And have you ever heard of Cassius Clay's bold phase before he became Muhammad Ali? If this story is catching your attention, like it now, subscribe to the channel, and comment below what you think. Was it arrogance or forward thinking? This will greatly help bring more stories like this. The year was 1960, and Cassius Clay arrived in the United States no longer as an ordinary kid from Louisville, but as the new face of Olympic boxing. The gold medal still gleamed in his memory, but now came the true test: the professional ring. This was where men became legends, or faded into oblivion. Clay knew this, and with the same confidence he had demonstrated in Rome, he announced, "I will conquer the world. I will be the greatest of all time." It wasn't just a wish, it was a prophecy he repeated to himself and to anyone who would listen. His professional debut took place on October 29, 1960, against Sonny Liston, a tough opponent, a police officer by profession and a boxer by passion. Anticipation was immense. The crowd wanted to see if this loudmouth could back up with his fists everything he said with his mouth. The gym was packed, and the energy was electric. Clay stepped into the ring smiling, light, almost dancing. As he warmed up, he teased, "You're going to see how fast I am, lightning fast. No one has ever moved like me." It was more than confidence. It was a spectacle. When the bell rang, the difference became clear. Clay was too fast. His feet floated on the mat. His jabs seemed to come from every direction. Liston, courageous, resisted, but seemed to be fighting against the wind. "You can't catch me," Clay shouted mid-round, drawing laughter and applause from the audience. Winning wasn't enough. He wanted to humiliate his opponent with his speed and style. It was boxing transformed into art and entertainment. In the end, Clay won by unanimous decision. An 18-year-old, now a professional, had fulfilled his promise, his first victory. But more important than the result was the impression he left. The public talked about him, newspapers wrote about his provocative manner, and some critics began to take issue. They said he was too arrogant, that he didn't respect his opponents, that he spoke as if he were already a champion. But deep down, it was precisely this arrogance that attracted attention. Cassius Clay understood something few did at the time. To be remembered, it wasn't enough to win, you had to become unforgettable. After that first victory, Clay went on an impressive streak. He faced one opponent after another, always maintaining the same style: fast, talkative, and irreverent. "I'm going to knock you out in the third round," he would say before fights. Sometimes he was wrong, but the crowd loved it. He turned each fight into a spectacle, and little by little his reputation grew. He was no longer just a promising boxer, he was a ring performer, and while critics frowned, fans multiplied. The kid from Louisville wasn't just winning, he was building a persona bigger than the sport. He was Cassius Clay, the poet of boxing, the man who rhymed his predictions, who smiled in front of the cameras, and who made it clear, "I'm the greatest, I just haven't figured out how to prove it yet." But the path to the top wouldn't be simple. Soon, Cassius Clay would find himself face to face with the most dangerous challenge of his life: Sonny Liston, the feared champion who seemed invincible. It starts out breathless. After his debut, Clay piles up victories, trades silence for sharp rhymes, and settles in Miami, where Angelo Dundee polishes the diamond in the rough. The training is daily, cruel, and calculated: light feet, a needle-like jab, and a tight defense. Each press conference becomes a stage, each truckload of criticism, fuel. "I dance, they tire," he repeats, as he runs along the beachfront and sings predictions to anyone who will listen. His confidence scares promoters, irritates rivals, and wins over the curious. London brings the shock. A blow knocks him down, pride lifts him, and a change saves him. He returns with a lesson written all over him: never underestimate the weight of a mistake. 3 more wins, more microphones, more headlines. Clay doesn't want to be promising, he wants to be inevitable. The target has a name, Sonny Liston. In the stuffy gym, the clock clicks and the bag swings like a war metronome. He provokes his teammates, wanting more risk and more stamina. If I don't get the timing right, the timing will get me, he notes. Dundee cuts the excess, less posing, more precision. His rise accelerates and the pressure mounts. Headlines call Clay a clown, a showman, an insolent. He reads everything, tears, nothing apart. If they talk, it's because they saw me, he says, feigning indifference. At night, the truth weighs heavily. Fear of failure, fear of being forgotten. Angelo, I speak loudly to silence the panic. He confesses in the locker room. Dundee doesn't smile, speak, but work twice as hard. The conversation becomes a pact. In the morning, an empty road, sweat on his face, a shadow on the wall. At the end of training, rounds of rope, eyes on the clock, breath counted, 3, 2, 1. He rehearses provocations like verbal jabs, but corrects the basics like a surgeon. No ups, no missteps. Outside the ring, doors don't open. A waiter pretends not to see him. A manager tells him to wait. He breathes and turns a front into gasoline. At the press conference, a reporter prods, "Aren't you provoking too much?" Clay leans in. "I provoke doubt. The rest, my hands resolve." Then, in the mirror, play with your speech. Be serious in your work. And that's it. The line of opponents dwindles. The dream grows. Clay wins, promises rounds, misses predictions, but puts on a show. Each victory amplifies the chant. Title now. He taunts relentlessly. "I'm too handsome to get hit." The press retorts with disdain. Liston will break him. The champion is a giant with heavy fists, a somber gait, and an aura of danger. The bookmakers laugh at the kid. The veterans say the lesson will come like a hammer. Clay ignores them, attacks with poetry and strategy. In front of the cameras, he calls his rival Ugly Bear. Secretly, he studies angles, timing, and lateral exits. The plan isn't to hit hard, it's to avoid being touched. At the first joint press conference, the air boils. Clay arrives, smiling, points at the champion, and blurts, "I'm going to make him miss until he's tired." Boos, flashbulbs, attentive, security guards. Liston doesn't blink. Clay responds with light steps, fists in the air, and rhymes. "I'll slide and sting when he breathes." Behind the theater, he calculates, to tire the monster, break the rhythm, lengthen the night, and drain the breath of fear. The day before, the city whispers Liston's name like a sentence. In his hotel room, Clay paces in circles, do his hands, shake a little. He laughs at himself and takes a deep breath. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's dancing with it, he murmurs. He calls home, gets advice, hangs up, and faces the mirror. The persona speaks loudly. The man asks softly, "What if I fall?" Then he writes on the paper, "Winning is convincing." He closes his eyes and visualizes, foot out of reach, jab as a beacon, head, cool, dawn breaks. In the hallway, silence weighs more heavily than any punch. The door opens, the world waits. Clay smiles, puts on his coat, and leaves his fear inside. The rest, he promises, will be history. On the way to the arena, the sound swells like a tide. A boy asks for an autograph. He signs, "Don't blink." Dundee adjusts the bandage, feet and eyes. Clay replies, "Feet, eyes, and faith." The tunnel becomes a flash. Tomorrow the bear awakens. Today he learns to wait. The hook, the first bell, determines who becomes legend and who becomes memory. No rush. The gong echoes in his head before it rings. The corridor is narrow, the air heavy. His heart sets the rhythm. Cassius walks with light steps, but his mind races faster. Angelo adjusts his bandage and whispers, "Feet and eyes." He responds, "Feet, eyes, and faith." The world screams outside. Inside, silence. The boy from Louisville faces his persona in the mirror. Those who speak loudly must fight louder. He prays briefly, smiles broadly. He climbs the ramp. The lights burn, the stage vibrates. The front row awaits blood. He offers speed. The announcer stretches out the name. The sound streaks the ceiling. The air smells of leather and euphoria. The bell is near. He licks his lips, measures the distance, adjusts. His feet, "Don't blink," he says to the void. His rival blinks. The ceiling becomes sky. The ring is an island. He breathes in for beats, holds the fire in his chest, and leaves fear sitting in the last seat. His face relaxes, his shoulders slump, his body becomes music. He remembers Rome, the podium, the boos, the applause, and keeps it all in a little Box called the end. Rome didn't leave him. The gold medal is more than metal. It's a map, a debt, and an oath. There he learned to transform fear into a stage, silence into rhyme, fatigue into dance. The boy who showed the medal on the street also learned to show his voice. The country doubted. He repaid it with work. Laughter was armor, provocation a shield. Between flashbulbs and closed doors, he discovered that winning is convincing. He returned to the empty mornings, the long asphalt, the rope that marks the beat. "Don't touch me," he murmured to the wind, as his feet drew circles on the ground. On the canvas, he thought like an actor. In training, he acted like a worker, without glamour, without shortcuts. Every step said, "I'm going to be the greatest." It wasn't just bragging, it was survival. When a waiter pretended not to see him, he saw himself more clearly. No one would give up his place. He would take his baton, and so he shaped the persona that the world would learn to love and hate. He spoke loudly so the camera would follow him. He worked double so his body could keep up. The gold brought light. The light brought shadow. He accepted both. In the late afternoon, he lay his head down and repeated like a prayer. Focus, hunger, faith. Tomorrow, again. The end a star is born. Before a title, it's born when someone decides to be seen without asking permission. Clay understood early. Sport is fighting and history. It's punches and phrases. It's the ring and the microphone. Many called him insolent. He listened, recorded, and responded with jabs and rhymes. "I dance, they get tired. I'm too handsome to get hit." The press traded respect for headlines. He traded disdain for ratings. It wasn't just vanity. It was a survival strategy in a country that preferred silence. Gold opened doors, but it also revealed walls. He went head to head, and when the door wouldn't budge, he found a window, and when the window closed, he knocked. Down the wall there, the character served the man. The tongue distracted, the feet decided. Show off, science in. The formula was simple: rhythm, range, angle, breathing, patience. The rest was noise. With each victory, a new city. With each city, a bigger chorus. Children imitated his footwork. Veterans huffed and puffed. Promoters did the math. He kept faith in the method. Protect your head, close the distance, make the clock work for you. When night fell, he jotted down rhymes and roots. The plan grew like a photograph developed in water. Well, on the eve of the meeting with the champion, Clay organizes the chaos. Few rules, all simple. Enter cold, leave intact. Touch without being touched. Stretch the night until the bear sleeps. Dundee cuts words, sharpens gestures. The plan fits into a single line. Float, sting, disappear. He repeats in the darkness like a psalm. Fear visits. He offers a chair. They talk. Fear speaks of falling. He speaks of rhythm. Fear shows scars. He shows feet. On the clock, the seconds drip like sweat. The city bets against him. The newspapers scream judgment. He closes the window and opens his chest. The final training session ends without applause. Just air, rope, shadow, breathing. The rest is noise. The night shrinks. Dawn pushes. The tunnel waits. In the locker room, the bandage makes a papery sound. Angelo holds his hands and measures his calm with his gaze. Feet and eyes, he smiles. Feet, eyes, and faith. The jacket closes like armor. The corridor extends its concrete tongue. The audience roars. A boy asks for an autograph. He signs. Don't blink. The smell of camphor rises. The referee waits. The canvas breathes. The ropes creak. He touches his chest, touches his gloves, touches the future. There is no promise of a miracle. There is a promise of work. If the bear comes, let him be tired. If the night is heavy, let it pass. Amen. The gold in Rome lit the light, but it was the choice that made him a star. Speak loudly, train harder, exist without asking permission. Today, history comes full circle. The skinny boy who showed off the medal now shows a path. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's managing fear like tying your shoelaces before a race. The lesson remains simple, human, and direct. No one gives up the stage. We conquer. No one offers a voice. We assert ourselves. If the world laughs, work. If the world doubts, work harder. The medal wasn't destiny. It was the key. It opened the door to the persona and strengthened the man. Here ends the birth. The star is lit, spinning above the ring, ready for the darkest night. In the next chapter, the gong will speak, the bear will advance, and the boy who danced in Rome will prove if dancing also hurts. Don't blink. The story just got more serious.